Okay, peace be with everyone. All praise to the Most High. And today I just wanted to add on another video to the understanding the KARAST blasphemy and the blasphemy of Kara and Kara, because we know that's the ancient name of Christ. And I just wanted to make a quick video diving into some more stuff here. And may God bless this video and allow it to reach who it's supposed to reach, and to be able to plant that seed and continue to spread the word of the name of KARAST, that the Messiah has come in. Right, so I'm just going to go through this real quick as per usual. Isaiah 52 verses 5 and 6. The Lord tells us that his name continually every day is blasphemed, and because of that we will know his name. So, now therefore what have I here, saith the Lord, that my people is taken away for naught. They that rule over them make them to howl, saith the Lord. Howl as in blaspheme. Make them to blaspheme, and as it's written that God's people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So it makes them to howl, saith the Lord. And my name continually, every day, is blasphemed. Therefore my people shall know my name. Therefore they shall know in that day that I am he that doeth speak. Behold, it is I. So in that day, which is these end times, his name is going to be blasphemed so often, and because of that, we will know the name. As I've already shown, the Karas is the ancient name for the anointed mummy, the anointed one, the Karas, the Christ, the Kara, the Karael, dealing with the car, right? That's why in the movies and the music videos and video games and things, they always got to smash the car and make war with the car, because they like to blaspheme Christ. Yep. Yeah, Christ comes from the Coptic late Egyptian term Karast, which was the anointed one. And then that's how we get Israel, because he is Karael, the Karas, the Karael, because Ka means soul, Ra means light, and El means God. He is Karael, God of Israel. And then we know that the cars, they were centered around Christ, the way that they named it, because they didn't need to name it a car. So let's get into this here. Mainly in this video, what I'm going to be showing is some very popular stuff that was part of like American culture and like world culture for many years here. So let's get into this. So starting off, I want to start off with Johnny Carson, right? Because he has the car. He's the Carson, and we know Christ comes in the name of Car, right? So he's the son Car, the Carson. Yep, he's the William. So his full name, he's the John William Carson. And as I've talked about before, Exodus 3:14, God told us he is the I am, and God said unto Moses, I am that I am, and he said, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you. And we know Christ is the will of God, and he does the will of God. So the will of God is the will of I am. It's the William. So that's why he had to be the William and the Carson. So let's get into this. That's why Johnny Carson, he had the late night show called The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson. So that was like a huge show from like the 60s to the 90s on NBC. And what's so serious is his nickname was the King of Late Night, right? And he's the Carson. He's the William, and he's the Carson, the son of Car, the son, right? And the reason they had to call him the King of Late Night is because that deals with Christ being the thief in the night. You see what I'm saying? Dealing with Car, the son Car the son, the William, Car the son, the William, being the king of late night. Because as we know, as it's written, 1 Thessalonians 5:2, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. Right? So we know the Lord comes as a thief in the night in these end times, the Messiah. Right? And we know that he comes as a man. Because 1 John 4:3 tells us that every spirit that confesseth not that Yeshua Christ is come in the flesh is not of God. Right? And then it tells us 2 John 7. For many deceivers are entered into the world, who confess not that Yeshua Christ is come in the flesh. And as we know, he was always prophesied to be a man who rises up, and he's going to lead the tribe of Judah. Right? And he's going to build the kingdom on earth. So Revelation 3:3, remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. So, he comes as a thief in the night for those who aren't ready, for those who aren't watching for him. They could have the Carson be called the King of Late Night, because we know Christ is the King of Kings, and he comes as the thief in the night. See what I'm saying? So yes, The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson went on for 30 seasons. 30 years he did this. 30 years, right? He did it for, yeah, he started in 1962, ended in 1992. And the reason this is so important too is because we got to think in the 60s and 70s and 80s and stuff, there was no social media, no cell phones, and even television. Like in the 60s, not everybody would have had a television yet, you know? So, like, when you have a television at that point, the main thing you're going to get is like NBC. So, this guy, Johnny Carson, had all the famous people on his show. So, like, everybody would have known this name, right? And remember, this is what it's all about. The name of the Lord is blasphemed every day. Carr, right? So Carr and William and Lewis. So during this time, turn the TV on. Oh, hey, let's watch the Johnny Carson show. You know, so people would have turned the TV on and being like, you know, oh, it's the Johnny Carson show. Of course, you know, like this would have been a very big thing that many people would have watched. It would have just been on in the background, or people would have just been seeing it. So people are just saying Carr, you know, Carson. This is why the music back then was so strong too, because there was no like instant way to get it, you know, like Spotify or anything like that. So it was all set up this way, you know, like very strong. And they knew the Messiah was coming onto the scene, you know. So that's why, yeah, look, The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson was indeed one of the most watched television programs during its time. It remains the most watched late night TV show in history, right? And on the finale, it had over 50 million Americans watching it. So they had all them people, the most watched late night TV show. So, and he's in Kar, we know KARAST, Kara Christ, he comes as a thief in the night, right? And he's the King of Kings. So they had to call him, like I said earlier, the King of Late Night. So let's keep it moving here. So looking at the Johnny Carson show, yeah, the Johnny Carson show, look who it was created by. It was created by Stephen William. So he's the William as well, right? And he's the Valentine. The Valentine deals with the love, right? And we know God is love. So that's why it had to be created by this guy, Steve Allen, and his name is William as well. And then there was another William. So two Williams had to create this dealing with the Carson, right? That's like, it's just deep, man. Look how many episodes the Johnny Carson show had. It had 6,714, so they had to have that 6 and 7, right? Because 6 is the number of the flesh, 7 is the number of the spirit. Oftentimes when they do the 67, it's to try to have the flesh overpower the spirit, you know? Like how they do things, you know? That's why the person who introduced Johnny Carson onto the late night show in 1962, it was this guy named Groucho Marx, right? He introduced him, Groucho Marx introduced him. And Groucho Marx, he was just Julius, right? And I've already talked about before the name Lewis. I'm not going to get into it in this video. I've already mentioned it a lot. I'll have more videos about that. But he's the Julius, that's the Judah, because Christ rises out of the tribe of Judah, and the Lewis. So that's why he had to introduce Carson at night, you know? And then what's so deep is the narrator for the Johnny Carson show, his name was Ed McMahon. And I've already talked about that Ed, right? Because as we know in Joshua 22:34, it says, and the children of Reuben and the children of Gad called the altar Ed, for it shall be a witness between us that the Lord is God. So you guys are going to see where I'm going with this. He was Ed McMahon, right? And look at this. This is so wild and so it's amazing the time we're in that the Lord has given us the eyes to see. But he had Ed McMahon narrating. So every time Johnny Carson would come out, Ed McMahon would be there going, "Here comes Johnny Carson." You know, so Ed was proclaiming that, you see what I'm saying, that Johnny Carson was coming onto the scene. You see what I'm saying? They had to have Edward Peter. His name is Edward Peter, proclaiming that Carson was coming onto the stage. You see what I'm saying? And on the show, he always had these curtains. See, this is him right here with the curtains behind him. See, through the curtain, talking about Johnny Carson. Right? Dealing with the veil, you know? That's why on Wizard of Oz, remember that man behind the curtain in the Emerald City? Because it's described in Revelation that the kingdom looks like an emerald. And we already know the connection with Kansas to Oz, the kingdom. So that's why Carson had to be behind the curtain, you know? And then he had to have Edward. Edward had to proclaim that he was coming onto the scene every night to come talk to the people. You know what I mean? And that just deals with the Holy Kingdom of Judah, how Chief Edward S. Lewis has been speaking thus far. You know? So this stuff it's all coming together. It's amazing to be able to understand all this. So, and also with the Edward, yeah, so they had to have, see, the primary announcer and sidekick. So the sidekick of Carson was Ed, the son Carr. You see what I'm saying? So, and then we also know that's why they had that show. Look at this. This is around the same time. So what did they say? They said Johnny Carson started doing the Tonight Show in like 62. So this is 1961. They had Mr. Ed, right? And Mr. Ed was the talking horse, right? Because they always have, they just blaspheme, you know? That's why in the NBA they have Anthony Edwards, who is, they had him getting fined for talking a lot, saying a lot of things. And that's why on the show Mr. Ed with the talking horse that was named Ed, there was the girl that was called Carol. Her name was Carol. It was Carol and Wilbur. Carol and Will. See what I'm saying? This is just like they always do that. We already know. And then that's why you had Jim Carrey. So many people were on the Johnny Carson show. Like, you know, that's the thing is he was like, he always had these famous people on there. But Jim Carrey, again, Carr, and I've mentioned him before, he had to make his debut on there. See, this was young Jim Carrey. See, he's on the stage with the curtains behind him, dealing with that veil on the Johnny Carson show. Jim Carrey, Carrey. See what I'm saying? And like what's so serious is with them having Johnny Carson being such a huge thing on the TV, people watching him. Because as we know, it's written in Deuteronomy 30:19, I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live. So we know that, and we know Satan is the accuser, right? So we know that the this day in heaven is recorded against us, like everything is recorded, you know, everything's recorded in heaven. And there's going to be like a court of heaven, you know, where Satan's going to try to accuse, but Christ is our mediator. Christ is our mediator that forgives us of all our sins, you know? So that's why they all had to sit down with Johnny Carson every night. He had to have all them famous people sit down with him. Sit down with Carson. William Carson with the curtain, sit down and talk with him. See what I'm saying? At the late night. And this would have been during the time when Messiah was coming onto the scene. So like it's so obvious how they did all this. Now with that Jim Carrey, I actually plan on making a video about Jim Carrey eventually. Like one kind of just focused on him and his movies. Because he's seriously a big blasphemer too with that Carrey name, you know. But anyway, that's why I remember he was on the Truman Show, right? And you remember Truman Show, his life was being recorded on the TV. Remember that? And he was a TV show and everybody was watching him. Because they just blaspheme. And then at the end he had to come out of he had to go all the way to the end of the ocean and leave the scene, you know? Dealing with being revealed now. See what I'm saying? I might make a video eventually on this movie because it's really serious in that movie. But then this, remember, he was the Bruce Almighty, Jim Carrey, you know, so he was playing God. You see what I'm saying? You remember this movie with Morgan Freeman? He was playing God. So they know what they're doing because they know the name. You see what I'm saying? They know the name Carr. That's why this had to have Steve Carell in it. And I'll just read it real quick, you know. Jim Carrey complains that God is treating him poorly. Soon after, God contacts Jim Carrey's character and offers him all of his powers if he thinks he can do a better job. See what I'm saying? So, Carrey gets the powers of God. These people blaspheme the name all day long. This dude, Jim Carrey, is seriously coded the way they have set his career up. Right? And that's why there was Evan Almighty. This was the same concept. See him on the ark just blaspheming. You remember in this, Steve Carell, he has the ark, you know, because they already know that Messiah deals with the Exodus back to our land before America, Babylon gets destroyed. And you know, because as it's written that it'll be as the days of Noah were. So that's why in this movie he has the ark, you know, and he's Steve Carell. and he's Steve Carell. Like, that's a serious blasphemous name. Steve Carell. Like, wow. Remember, that's why he's on The Office, and this is like one of the like a huge show. Like, people like love this show. And I mentioned this in my other video, but it's again, I'm thinking I'm gonna have a video on Jim Carrey and Steve Carell, because these guys, wow, serious blasphemy. Because Christ is about his Father's business. So that's why he's in The Office. Steve Carell, and they call him the world's best boss on his mug. Like, no way around that. That's why there's the movie called The Cable Guy with Jim Carrey, Jim Carrey. The cable guy. See, he has the electricity right there. And look, because as we know, it's written that just as the lightning shineth from the east to the west, it'll be that way with the Son of Man, the Messiah. And that means that he's going to be born in the Western world. He was born in the Eastern world the first time, then he's going to be born in the Western world for his second time. That's why the Cable Guy with Jim Carrey had to be written by Lou Holtz Jr. See what I mean? Lewis. This is all they do. So, oh yeah, this was from, I wanted to mention this in my last video. I know this was the Hoodie Mellow, but a lot of people remember this. He used to have this Hoodie Mellow time when Carmelo Anthony, again Carr, and I just made my video about him, how he's on the cover of the new NBA 2K, but he used to post videos of him working out and scrimmaging, and he would wear this hoodie, and it was like a meme where people would be like, man, Hoodie Mellow is the best player ever. Hoodie Mellow is no joke, because they were saying Hoodie Carr is no joke. See, I've never seen Hoodie Mellow miss a shot. And this was like a thing, Hoodie Mellow, because that deals with the thief in the night. He's Carr, so having that hoodie on and not everybody can see him. Not those who are really seeking him will find him. Those who are expecting him, those who know that he comes in flesh, right? So that's why he was the Hoodie Mellow. That's why I had showed this in my video from a few months ago about Playboy Cardi. That's why Cardi, Playboy Carr, again, he's the Carter, he had to get arrested at nighttime speeding in the vehicle, speeding in the car. So he's Cardi, he had to speed in the car at nighttime, deals with that thief in the night. Because, he calls himself a rock star. And then Christ is the rock, and Christ is the bright and morning star. That's why the video games called, Grand Theft Auto, which I plan on making a video on those too, but the video games Grand Theft Auto are made by the Rockstar Games, because it deals with stealing the cars, and then you can do that at night, dealing with being a thief in the night. Like, this stuff is serious. That's why, this was like early 2000s, late 90s, MTV, back when MTV was actually like about music. Remember, they had this guy, Carson Daly, and he would be doing like the TRL, and he'd be interviewing the musicians and stuff on MTV. We remember him. See, this is him like with, he used to always be with all them people interviewing him. There he is with Beyonce. He was always on MTV, So again, another big show, people tuning in, and they're seeing Carson Daly talking to their favorite musicians. See what I mean? You got Britney Spears, J-Lo, Beyonce, Eminem. You remember? TRL. Yeah, Total Request Live on MTV. Carson, 2,000 episodes. Yeah. Like, it's just really serious how these people do everything. Then that's why he had to have a talk show as well, called The Last Call with Carson Daly. The Last Call, right? Because they already know they already knew at that point, time is moving by fast. They already knew at that point that the last call was going to be coming in the next couple decades, because Messiah's on the scene. And right now we are really in that last call. It's time for people to start realizing that he's upon the earth, Kara El, Yehovah Ra, Louis Eternal. Amen. Amen. A human, a man in flesh. Already here. This stuff is amazing. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to get into. Like I said, it was just going to be a real quick video. I'm going to have more videos coming. I just wanted to talk about that Johnny Carson because that was so deep, This was, from 1960 to 1990, that would have been one of the most watched things, everybody would have been tuning in seeing Carson, you know? Stuff is deep. So yeah, that's really all I wanted to get into. I wish peace, love, prosperity to everyone. I'm going to have more videos coming. Peace be with all.